Greetings and salutations. Is the camera alright?
It is now.
Can you see me?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
They don't want to see you.
They're not doing it to see you. They're actually watching it to look at the figures. None of you two are important. Just you waffle along, and
Right. Today we're going to be going over the Vikings that we have. This is our Dark Age Viking army, which is quite fun. And we have the rulebook. Father Christmas has visited us and given us the rules. Here's the rulebook. And so we are now able to actually build our army using the rulebook rather than just basing them up and hoping that they're in the rules. So this is the army so far. I've still got a lot of figures to paint up and base, and I'm still getting around to it. Should we go over the rules first? The army list first?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we'll just go through the army list. I'm not going to tell you all the details because I don't want to tread on any toes, but page 40 something. Yeah, so I should mention, this is the Hail Caesar Late Antiquity army
List.
Yeah, and it has in it all sorts of stuff, and I am going to be using quite a few armies from this book eventually, so I will be using this book a lot. I use the other book for the Romans and stuff. This is the Late Antiquity version, which covers basically the Vikings, Saxons, most of the Arab Empire, end of the Roman Empire, last of the Romans, right up to medieval period, really. Yeah, and it has crossbows and stuff in it, which is cool, which you just treat as bows for some reason. But there you go, anyway. Yeah, so we'll just go through the Viking army list, and this is where I got a bit confused. So, your actual Vikings, you're allowed one unit of Housecarls, which can be upgraded to Housecarls equipped with Peeler and Berserkers. Couple of points with that. I totally agree with the Peeler thing. I was expecting something like that to be in the rules, and they are. The Vikings used throwing axes which were designed to split shields. The axes would actually sink into the shield and split the shield. So that's very much what Peeler did. They also used darts and things like that, which they would throw over the head of the enemy, which would come down on top of them. Like the Plumbata.
Yeah.
Yeah, which the Romans used. So that's quite cool. Then we have mercenary Vikings, which you can use on top. And then you can have heavy infantry herdmen, who are infantry in mail and stuff, which can also be upgraded. Okay, now, I'll just go through the Berserkers thing. Viking Berserkers were not an independent unit any more than they were in the Saxon army. I'll get into the Saxons in the next video. But your Berserkers, I think, would generally be dispersed among the army. We know the numbers for heavy axe psychopath men in the Saxon army was roughly 1 to 8. I should guess it'd be a lot less for the Vikings, but then again the Viking armies tended to be smaller, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the average Viking unit...
30-man army.
Yeah. The average Viking unit, which would be 30 men, would have 3 or 4 what you would call berserkers, basically guys with a huge battle axe. And the huge battle axe was basically, it's one of these guys here. It's basically a guy who comes forward, the shield wall will open up, and the guy will come through with his huge axe. Can you see the figures alright there?
yeah,
He would come through with his huge axe, the shield wall would open up. Let's just give you a little shield wall. There's your shield wall. And give you some spears there. Can you see all that?
yep.
Yeah, so there's your shield wall. And then your shield wall would open up, and this psychopath guy would come out with his huge battle axe and hack into the enemy shield wall, cutting down the shield, slicing men in half, and then he would back in, and the shield wall would close, and then advance in a wedge, which would open up the enemy wall and hopefully destroy them.
Yeah, the bad thing about the Saxons was they jumped over the shield wall in the first place.
Yeah, that wasn't uncommon.
So
you
that
have-
guy would be useless.
Yeah, those guys are basically berserkers, and what they would do is try and get over the wall. They'd also use lances, things like that. But you can't put everything into a rule system, can you?
No, not everything. No.
So there we go. Now, so yeah, I get that you can upgrade it into berserkers, but I think your berserkers will be interspersed with each unit anyway. So make of that what you will. I think we just class every army, every unit as having a berserker in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Then you've got your herdmen. Now, the way the army is designed is to have your elite housecarls and then your herdmen. And your herdmen are basically exactly the same as your housecarls. They do more or less the same thing. That's because they are housecarls. Linguistically, the same problem with the Saxon army. Herdman means house guard.
Probably.
House guard. Hashkal means hearth guard. It's just two languages using the same thing to describe the same thing. They're professional soldiers. If you look them up, it's a professional soldier. Sorry, it's not a professional soldier. If you look them up, most of them say they're a rich man who can afford mail, who can afford armor. And didn't do any other job other than fighting. Yeah, that's the description of a soldier, of a professional soldier. Would you say Roman soldiers were rich men who could afford a full suit of segmentata armour, a shield, 2 pilum, and a gladius, and a knife?
Yeah.
Well, rich, were they?
Yeah, they're very rich, definitely.
So all the rich men in Rome were marching around in the cohorts, weren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's, real life doesn't work like that. If you put all your rich men in one unit and put them at the front rank, you're going to run out of rich people. They're going to get hacked to death. And then you've got to work out who owns the house now, and there's lots of arguments and stuff. Generally, you guys were male. You guys in male, hauberk. Male, invented by the Celts.
Male.
Yeah, nicked by the Romans, the chainmail armour. Nicked by the Romans met it and went, oh, this is nice, we'll make it ourselves. And then they went on to segmentata, and then the empire started to fall apart and they went back to mail. So, all your troops in mail, your heavy infantry, are basically the same troops, whatever name you give them. So, your herdmen are simply Viking for housecarl. They're basically standing infantry, hearth guard, not defending the king's hearth, but defending the hearth and home of everybody in the country. They protect the kingdom. So they're professional soldiers, and just like the Vikings, these Viking troops are professional soldiers. That's about it, really, isn't it? Yeah. So next thing is the Bondi. Your Bondi are basically the same type of thing, but they wear leather armour instead of normal. These guys are Bondi. If you look,
you can tell the difference.
Yeah, basically they're from the Dark Age box, and they're just wearing a coat sort of thing. And if you can see, I've actually painted over the top of the coat a hauberk, a cotton hauberk, which is a padded leather armour with layers, different layers of leather underneath, and bits of cloth. And that I know a guy who actually makes these things, and they will stop a spear. They're just as good as chainmail, and the Viking soldiers would regularly use something like this underneath their chainmail anyway. So that's what they are. They're Bondi. Bondi are freemen, basically, rough translation, and they're just normal soldiers. They're basically normal soldiers who join the army when they're needed.
Yeah.
Generally, it was sort of considered that in the early spring you would lay all your crops, and then you would go off to fight and come back and bring your harvested. That's what was originally thought, but that may not actually be true. Farmers most likely actually stayed on the farm and didn't go and fight. Yeah, because you need, well, a husbandman is a farmer, someone who tends a farm, isn't it?
Yeah.
In English. In Old English. So a husbandman isn't someone who stays at home and looks after the farm. So he doesn't put on armour and walk around with an axe and a sword. His job is looking after fields. And if you get a lot of farmers killed, then you're going to lose a lot of knowledge. It's always dangerous. Soldiers tend to be spare people you don't need. In Rome, you would have two sons, and one son would be sent to the army, and the other one would be sent to be educated. So one son would take over the family business, and the other one would spend his life either getting killed or becoming a really good soldier.
I'd rather be educated.
It's less work being a soldier, though, isn't it?
No, it's dangerous being a soldier.
It's well paid.
Well, you only fight for like a few minutes, so...
You fight for a very, very short amount of time, most of the time.
Oh, sorry, it's like a minute, you fight for a minute about.
Yeah, you fight for a very small amount of time. Battles in all ancient times would only last 15 minutes, roughly. Hastings was a one-off. Hastings lasted 8 hours, which was a hell of a fight. But normal battles would only last about 15 minutes, maybe an hour. Battles with Rome lasted usually a lot less. They could end very, very quickly. A lot of build up to the actual battle, but when you actually started fighting, then all the men at the front dropped dead, and then your army collapsed. So there you go. Yeah, so your bondi are basically your regular infantry, not regular infantry, your support troops, like your levy, so support infantry, guys who usually would be raised locally. The bondi wouldn't be actual Vikings usually coming in from the fjords, they would be local Saxons or Franks under Viking control. The Vikings, when they conquered an area, didn't slaughter the population and build farms. They just walked in and said, "We're in charge now."
Yeah.
That's it. We're in charge. And the people just carried on living the same way as they had before. And so you had the Viking language come in. So we speak Viking. I'm speaking Viking more or less to you now. Viking and Saxon and a bit of Latin. That's our language. But that the DNA shows that Vikings did not colonise Britain. Vikings just took it over. There weren't many Vikings. The biggest army the Vikings ever raised was 750 men. So that is not a huge invasion force.
No, it's not.
No. And it's also a rubbish force to occupy a country.
Yes.
Yeah. The Normans had to bring in about 200,000 men to occupy Britain. And they didn't do a very good job of that. They had to kill the British because there were too many British to control. So they slaughtered the British. So Vikings simply didn't have the ability to do that. So they basically came in and they got a local Saxon and said, "Would you mind running this area for us?" And all the people would support that guy and say, "Yeah, right, Vikings are in charge now."
But no, I wouldn't agree.
Wouldn't you?
No.
Yeah, the thing is that Saxon guy has just taken over, you know him?
Yes.
He's probably already running the place for the Earl.
No, I mean if I was a Saxon guy.
Yeah, well, and if you were a Saxon guy who was now in charge?
Yes.
Well, now you're in charge.
I wouldn't want to be in charge with the Vikings tell what to do.
Right, but you'd be in charge.
Yes, but I begin orders from the Vikings to do things I've got to do.
Like what?
Like, you got to do this, you got to do that. And
Just make sure there's enough food for the local Viking soldiers, that's all you have to do.
No, I don't want that.
Don't you?
Run like Saxons, run.
Just run away.
We don't listen to Vikings, we listen to Saxons.
Yeah, but that's the point. You would install a Saxon to rule over you. Unlike
Yes,
the Normans
but
who didn't.
I'm saying that if I was a Saxon with ruling over them.
Well, if you were a Saxon that ruling, you would lose a battle, and the Vikings would take you prisoner. Right? And the Vikings would say, "Alright, you got a choice. One, you can go back to your hall, carry on running all your lands, all the people will pay taxes to you and stuff. It's great. And you're in charge. The other alternative is we just cut your head off and get someone else to do your job."
It's really confusing. I can't be in the 21st century.
No, you wouldn't.
Yes, I would.
No, it was way simpler back in Viking times.
No, it's not. It's more confusing.
No,
My
very
brain's
simple.
melting.
No, in modern day Britain we don't. Well, we have government, and we don't get to choose our leaders, unfortunately.
You do. You vote.
The Saxons, the Vikings got to choose their leaders. The Vikings were basically a big guy would stand up and say, "I'm in charge," and if no one disagreed, then he was in charge. And if someone disagreed, then they would hit each other with sticks and pointy things until one of them fell over, and then that guy who won was in charge. Right? But in Saxon Britain, they would be elected. So a guy would say, "I want to be king," and then the people would vote for that person, whether or not he gets to be king or not.
Right.
And then you replace the king on a regular basis. And so...
I figured you wouldn't completely off track.
No, but it's all perfectly important stuff. Anyway, we're talking about the Vikings and the rules. Yeah, so they're Bondi, they're regular infantry. And then you have Thrall, which is subject peoples.
Support infantry.
Support infantry, who are these guys, who once again are in the leather armour. Who are support infantry, and they're equipped with throwing axes as well. So basically all the Viking troops have the throwing axes, so they -1 off the enemy save. So, a bit like playing Romans. Although they're not drilled. So it's like playing Romans who aren't drilled.
It's pretty easy for me to fight.
Yeah, the Romans weren't that organised. So, no, sorry, the Vikings weren't that organised. They would all turn up for the fight, and that's about it.
Turn up and get sorted. What a fight that was, yes.
Well, it's like battle cries. The Vikings didn't go in for battle cries. They were much more iconic. They were like the Spartans.
What, going quite
They used sarcasm. In Sparta, sarcasm was taught in schools. Kids were taught to be sarcastic.
I fit in perfectly then.
Yeah, you would fit in brilliant. You'd be a brilliant Spartan.
Yeah.
The Vikings would be very open-minded when it came to getting killed. They would say something like, "Today, someone's going to die. Might be us, might be them. Don't know. We'll find out." Whereas the Saxons were more sort of, "This is our land. We're defending it." The Vikings were like, "I don't care. Might win, might lose. Not really bothered, really."
Yeah, well, they're very bothered. They're extremely bothered.
Yeah, but Vikings also use guile.
If they lose, they don't want to go home. No.
Well, Saxons would never leave the field. Saxons will stay on the
that's
field
how
and
you
die.
fight a real battle.
They'll stay on the field and die. And so if they lose a battle, all their leaders get killed. Whereas the Vikings, if they were losing...
Our Saxon king has an awesome helmet.
Yeah, but if the Vikings were losing a battle, they would just run away.
Cowards.
And then they'd come fight again. On better terms.
And I'll still fight exactly
And
the
win.
same. Yeah, I'd come back to that with better terms also.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be using the Vikings, you're going to be using the Saxons, so we're going to be finding out very soon who wins. Actually.
I'm going to get my awesome commander.
Yes, you get your awesome helmeted commander.
Yay.
As with our Romans, we have made these little cards, which are the cards for our armies.
This one is for housecarls and herdmen.
Yeah, basically, because they're the same stats, we've used the same card for both the herdmen and the others, but they're just different points. Then we've got the card for Bondi, and the card for the javelin and throwing axes. So we've got the same game cards as we use for the... What are you doing with it?
You make sure they can read it.
No, not they can read it, they can buy the book.
No, because we're basically here to show that they should buy it.
Yeah, but you're going to be showing them how it plays anyway.
Yeah, we're going to be fighting battles anyway.
That's the whole point.
We didn't buy them just to look good. Oh, can you see my Viking general? He's strangling someone. Did I show him you?
Yeah, we've been there and done that
He's
one.
really cool. It's like, it's really good.
Ever since Christmas.
Yeah, ever since Christmas we've had this.
Yeah,
every day.
It's terrible, brilliant.
He's driving me insane.
Yeah, thank you.
Thankfully, I'm upstairs all the time playing games.
Oh yeah, you're out of it. That's absolutely fine.
You see
It's
the
just me
support
that has
I get
to take
in my
it.
hobby from these
Yeah.
two. It's great. So yeah. So that is the Viking army. The rule book, the rules for the Vikings also have a little interesting point in them. You can have 2 units. It doesn't cost you any more points. You just buy the actual units as they are. But you can take the front rank off of one. No, but this is the...
Oh right, it's explained version.
This is explained version. You can put the housecarls or herdmen, depending on which unit you use it. Well, I wouldn't suggest you do it with housecarls, but you get your herdmen in front, and then you get your Bondi, your
back.
local infantry behind, and you have yourselves 2 units of mixed troops. Can you see a close-up of that? Is that... And this is a special rule just for the Viking army and the Saxon armies. Both armies can do this. And the idea is, as your forward troops, who are your heavily armoured infantry, your professional soldiers, they will fight, and up until you've been shaken, they will act as if they are housecarls. They will fight as housecarls. But as soon as your unit becomes shaken, they become Bondi. So they lose the bonuses. They lose the toughness bonus, reroll, one save roll, and their fighting ability goes down to 6 instead of 7. So that's quite an interesting rule.
Yeah.
And it could be quite interesting doing games with it, because then you could, instead of having a lot of medium infantry and heavy infantry, you could turn all the infantry into heavy, but have the risk the chance of them all becoming medium. It's an interesting little rule, which I think will make games quite interesting for us.
Yeah. I think that's everything about the Vikings, isn't it?
And I think that's the Vikings as a whole. That is the Vikings. We have done the Vikings. We will do another update video on the Vikings when we've got all the Viking troops finished, and we'll show you the whole army as it stands. Still a bit away that, but we are building on it, aren't we, dear?
Yeah.
Yeah. And same with the Saxons. So the next video will be introducing the Saxons and going over the rules for the Saxons. Bit more complicated, the Saxon army, but interesting. And there we go. So, anything to say?
Yes. So leave a like,
Yep.
and you don't have to, I'm not going to force you to do it if you want.
No, leave a like.
Subscribe.
Seriously, leave a like. I'm not having any of that non-liking stuff. No way. I mean, if you've actually watched it all the way to this point in the video,
Subscribe and comment down below for a Q&A video and extras if you wanted to. And now we end the video because I think it's made us to talk.